Good evening and welcome to the latest edition of Radio Pitch and Putt, COVID Pitch and Putt, and this is Frank Deneen, your host. I'm joined tonight by one of the most mercurial players that has ever graced our game, one of the true gentlemen in our game as well, and an ambassador beyond reckoning with everybody. Double Irish champion, both match play and stroke play, which is no mean event. I'm delighted to be welcome to the show Liam O'Brien from Douglas. Good evening, Liam.
Hi, Frank. How are you?
Excellent. I hope you and your family are keeping safe in these tough times.
Yes, we're cocooning for the last 6 weeks, so we're out now. We're glad to get out and get a bit of fresh air and kind of hopefully we get back onto the old pitch and putt in the not too distant future, just even get a little bit of practice in and hope for the best after that.
Excellent. Liam,
okay.
Great. I'm delighted to hear it. And you know your family. I'm going to go back and start at the start. What was your introduction to pitch and putt? How did you start playing and when?
Well, Frank, a lot of people have this impression that I started off as a kind of a juvenile, which was very far from the truth. I was a very late beginner to pitch and putt, and it was just by fluke. And about how it came about was that I was playing a bit of football and with CCYMS, and I was coming to the end of my tether. I played now with the likes of Billy Buckley out of DSB, Liam O'Higgins, Finbar O'Donovan, which is Ray's father-in-law, and I wish him well. I heard he wasn't great, but I played football with them, but I came to the end of the tether and I didn't know what to do. So, lo and behold, one night we were married and Norma was only a little baby at the time. There was a knock on the door and Phil's brother came and he wanted to know what I'd do him a favour. So I said, why? Fine, no bother. So he said, I'm secretary of Douglas Pitch and Putt and we're looking for members and I'm trying to get people just to bring somebody along. Would you come up and I can show somebody that I brought somebody up? But I said, fine, but I have no clubs. So he said, I'll get you clubs. And I went along and I went up. He collected me because we had no car. We were living in Wymell Road at the time, which is just off of Capwell bus garage there. And I went up and lo and behold, the bug kind of kicked in. And I was working in Tom Murphy's at the time with the Drapers in Patrick Street, and I was all abuzz about it, and I went into work the following day, and I said it to my old boss, the Lord of Mercy, and I was playing pitch and putt last night. And he said, I have 2 clubs at home for you. He said, I'll bring them into you. And he did. And one of them was the Hickory putter that I have.
You're still using it
and
to
the other
this
one
day?
was
Yeah.
I have it in the car, but I haven't used it now for a few years, but it done everything it asked for. Everything.
And
anything I ever won, I won it with that.
Excellent.
So that was my introduction to pitch and putt. He brought me along. I didn't even know he was involved in Douglas in pitch and putt.
Yes.
We didn't very know the Lord of Mercy, but that was my introduction.
Do you know what year that was, Liam?
Funny enough, Frank, I give a guess because the first little trophy I ever won, it was a runners-up in the junior leagues, and we were playing St. Anne's, believe it or not, in the semi-final, or in the final, up in Highfield.
Right.
And I had a little plaque which says 1972.
Wow.
So I must have been playing 1971.
Very good.
Because I have a little plaque. That's what they were doing at that time, the plaque for getting the league. And I remember who I was playing. I was playing the one and only Jerry O'Donoghue.
Oh,
in
Jerry,
the junior league.
Wow.
Brilliant player. And we're still great friends to this day.
Jerry's a great player and was always one of the most underrated players ever.
Yeah.
Were you good from the start?
Well, I tell you now a story that how you come along to kind of, and how life kind of changes you in a sense. Like we didn't have a car, kind of, and for me to get to Douglas, I used to have to get a bus up by St. Finbar's Hospital, which is going to Crosshaven, get off at the pitch and putt, and walk down to the village and get the bus back again. But at the time, I used to have a half day on a Wednesday, and there were the times when there was all half days on Wednesdays. And for me to kind of get a practice when I got the bug in, I used to go out to Mrs. Bell in Woodville.
Yes.
And she let me play away. And I'm eternally grateful for all that, because I used to spend an hour or two out there, and Woodvale was short, as you know, and small, but it taught me an awful lot how to pitch and chip and all that kind of thing. And I used to do that on a Wednesday. And I used to go to the old ESB course, which was at the top of where the Link Road is now there. There's a block of apartments there now. It was across the road from the ESB as it is now.
Yeah.
And there was a 9-hole course in there, and they used to let me play there as well. That was where the ESB started.
Very good.
And that's how I got into the game. And I didn't know how good I was at whatever, but I started off at 12, obviously, and I got mad into the game, and I was mad to try and get down and get down and get down. And I just can't understand the guys today that, my priority always is to get down and compete with the best if I could do that. Absolutely. And that's what I kind of done.
But you from what you're saying, it seemed to me that you liked practicing, though. You liked just playing.
Well, I used kind of practice on. I used like practicing on my own, Frank.
Yeah. And
like even kind of even at the later stages, if there was a championship on or something on, I'd go and I'd play on the Thursday. Yeah. And I'd practice on a Thursday, and I'd play kind of 2 balls, and I'd count the score on the 2 balls what I score.
Yes.
And I'd always kind of set a ball mark and try and beat that the next time. Mm-hmm. And that's what I was trying to do. And it kind of, a lot of the competitions when I worked in the old drapery trade and the retail trade, I was very seldom off on the Saturday, so I couldn't kind of play on the Saturday. It was mostly kind of Sundays that I played. Yeah. In the latter years now, when I got into the scratch cups and all that kind of thing. Yeah. So that was my introduction to the game to my brother-in-law, the Lord of Mercy, and I was doing him a favour, but he done me a huge favour in the end.
But it just goes to show to anybody who's listening that, getting random people, or I'm not saying random, but, people that you wouldn't almost expect to want to be involved, there's a great opportunity with that. And especially if you're coming to the end of your football career or your other sports career as well. It sounds like a very pitch and putt team, that. Finbar Donovan, obviously we wish him the well.
Well,
Liam Higgin,
Yeah, we met up, and there was another guy there that they didn't very know, Timmy Murphy, that played in the ESB as well. He was a brilliant snooker player and a billiard player. Right. And he was in the Young Men's Society. But it was only later on when we kind of met up and to see all these guys playing pitch and putt, it was brilliant, like. It was brilliant. But just one little antidote to kind of when I was kind of going up and learning the game,
Yeah.
I was in Douglas one day playing away, and I can remember the Douglas have changed dramatically to when I went there first. Mm. That course has dramatically changed since then, and I think that the greens are fast there now. Yeah, you should have seen them. They were completely different altogether. But one little tidbit that I got a tip off of was that he was only a kid, and I was playing down the old second there, and I was socketing.
Yes.
And I was on my own, and there was a little kid came over to me, and he said to me, "Do you mind if I tell you what you do?" And I said, "Not at all, no." And he taught me about my feet, that my feet were wrong, that I should have the right one just a fraction in front of the left, just a fraction. Yeah. And that kid was John McHenry.
Oh, wow.
Yeah. Unbelievable. And he used to pop in now and again.
Yes.
I know he played for general manager above now, but he used to pop in and odd time in and out of the course, That's
a brilliant story. Okay, so as you progressed, did you reach the heights of the game in Cork, in Douglas, where you considered? When did you recognise that you were really good?
Well, I love match play, Frank. I like match play. Match play was kind of my first game of match play was playing in a junior league match, and I hadn't a clue in the early world what I was playing.
Yeah.
And it was Joe Donovan, and I don't know where he is now. He went to America. I don't know if he's dead or alive, and I don't know if Jenny is listening to me or not. But I don't know. We were great friends. We were great friends, and we had a kind of a regular Wednesday 4-ball when I had a half day. There was a couple of lads out at the post office that they were free. And Joe was free as well. And we used to go to the old Carrigaline course up in Church Road.
Yes.
And we used to go there in the middle of winter now. In the middle of winter. October, November, December, January. We'd be playing there for £1. So you wouldn't win £1 in it because they wouldn't let you win it anyway.
Yeah.
But we learned an awful lot. We learned an awful lot of that, but it was great fun. Brilliant fun. We met the pro there then, Tom Fitzgerald.
Tom Fitzgerald, another great man in the game.
Brilliant, brilliant. He used to fall in with us as well. But what a character. You're talking about characters? What a character.
He was a gas man. We
were great friends. Yeah,
so,
great friends.
So, but that's recognising that you could play, but when you talk about national competitions, provincial competitions, at what stage did you recognise that you could possibly win one of those? Was there ever a moment?
Well, was to compete was the big thing for me, Frank. And the first introduction to that I had was 1973, I think the match play was on in Douglas. You can correct me now if I'm wrong, but I think Man Hogan won it. He beat Andy Dempsey, I think, in the final. And I was told to go up and look at it and kind of watch what the game is about.
Yeah.
Right, so I did. And one thing that I picked up out of that, there was a guy playing in the semi-final, what was his name? Redmond, I think. I can't remember his name. But he was over in the old course now, and he was chipping away by the 60, and was ready to go out, and he was chipping. And somebody asked him, what's the best way to chip? And it always stuck in my head. Get the ball low on the ground, he said, and let the ball roll into the holes is as good as a putt. And that stuck in my head, and that's what I've been kind of doing ever since. Right?
Yeah.
He was saying, a chip is as good as a putt. You get the line and leave a roll to the hole. And it was a great tip.
It's great
but the following year, Frank, 1974, I entered for that. It was held in Highfield. And it went, for qualifying, it went from, now there was only 32 in the final that year, those years. There was no 64, so 32 to qualify for the Nationals.
Yeah.
So I entered for it, and it was held in Highfield. And you played from one day to the following Sunday, the whole week.
Wow.
And there was only 3 to qualify out of Cork.
Right. Oh
and I qualified out of Cork.
Excellent.
And it was held in Shandon, and Tommy Hall won it.
Yeah.
He gave an exhibition of putting that year. And that was my introduction. I didn't even know what I was playing in. And I can remember saying it to Chris Toig, the Lord of Mercy. He was vice president of the union at the time, I think. And I said, what happens now, Chris? We said, you have to go to Dublin now. He said, sure, I work. And he said, he said, you'll have to do it now, do you? So that was my introduction, and that was brilliant. Like,
yeah,
I got the bug there, and then
very good.
Said, I'll be there. I'll be there one of these days. Took a long time though.
Well, sometimes it does. You entered into the Fermoy Club in 1993, which is 20 years after you started. Can you tell us about that weekend?
Well, that weekend, I should have been beaten in the first round, Frank.
Yeah.
I was down and I was beaten, and I think I was playing Liam Gary, is it? Liam Gary out of Kildare.
Right.
I was, yeah. And I was Dormy 2 down, and he had a putt. I remember it as well. He had a putt on the 18th in Fermoy, a downhill putt from about 3 or 4 feet.
Yeah.
And I was putting up just inside him, and he missed. Mm-hmm. He had that for the match. I was gone. And I missed. I got it, and I beat him on the 37th.
Yes.
And I didn't look back after that.
No, you didn't. I remember you playing.
Look back after that.
I was actually there. It was one of my first introductions to the game as well. A bit like you down in Douglas in your era. I was there for a lot of that. I was definitely there for the final as well, and that was you were always in control. If my memory goes right, anyway, you were always in control.
I was, yeah. I was never in any danger after that. I think I'd say Colin Summers after that, and
yes. I'm sure Colin will remember. Yeah. He'll be on to us anyway about it. Don't worry.
I remember playing Colin Summers. Yeah.
Yeah. Now, who did you beat in the final?
Johnny Campbell Jr.
Yeah.
He beat Barry Morrissey in the semi-final.
Not a great competitor.
Yeah. Yeah.
Barry Morrissey's another player that should have won a national title. He was.
Oh, he was odds on to win that match.
Yeah.
But what a character as well, like.
Oh.
What a character. Some fantastic, great characters came out of Carrigaline, boy. They were the hardest and toughest to beat. They were. Unreal. Yeah. You had to play against them to know it, like.
Yeah. Barry Morrissey's definitely a character. I have great time for Barry. I really do. Yeah. I know he gives me a hard time from time to time, but I have great time for him.
Right. But there's not a bad bone in his body. No. Like.
Sometimes we deserve it. Anyway, so the next milestone, and I before I go on to 96 in Rock Lodge, I remember in the final in Fermoy, you getting a socket. I think it was the first hole might have been the first hole in the start of the second round, but you are prone to getting much the same as I am. We're prone to getting the odd one now and again. Is that always something or was that something that happened just on the odd occasion that I happened to spot?
It just happened. It happened to me. It happened to me on the 18th. I got a huge socket on the 18th.
Yes.
First time round, I think.
Yeah, that's what I remember.
It was a big socket, because it's a long shot and the kind of forcing the shot, Frank. That's where it comes from, kind of getting the sockets and forcing the shots and coming in too fast and all that kind of stuff.
I'll tell you one thing, Liam. That actual shot gave me, as a young player, an all of heart, because I was there saying, oh my God, even though this guy is about to win an Irish match play championship, he's still capable of getting a shot like that, and we are all human, and we are all get shots like that on occasion, you know. I remember, I vividly remember that, so it's strange what sticks in your memory. That one now, he sticks in my memory big time, because I got a good chip. I got onto the green. My goal was to try and get onto the green, but I had a long putt, and I sank the putt. Yes. And he missed a putt for board because he was in shock. In shock, I'd say, kind of after I get in the tree, because as you know yourself, sometimes you look at a match and you say, I have this hole won, and all of a sudden, bang, it doesn't work that way. Like, no, definitely doesn't. Not a match play.
Yeah.
Now, so
and I think I got one at the first as well. Then stopped off, but after that, it just kind of settled down.
It's the way it goes. It's the way it goes. 96. I played in the National Stroke Play Finals out in Rock Lodge. I remember on the very first hole. You had? I do. I had 12 under par. Yeah, see, the old memory's good. And I remember on the first hole, it was the second session, Liam Brien stood onto the first hole and he got a hole-in-one on the first.
That is correct.
Is my memory
good?
That is
correct.
See, I tell you.
that is correct, yeah.
And that seemed to start you off really well that day.
It did, yeah. It did. And the funny thing about that, Frank, about that 96, is that I went to Rock Lodge as I normally did. And as I said to you, I normally kind of, if I was going for practice on for a tournament, whatever, I'd always go on the Thursday.
Yeah.
And because I couldn't go on a Saturday, but I had to kind of bide my kind of set out my stall when I was looking for time off like that, because Saturday was always the retail trade busy period. Like, so I remember going out on the Thursday, and I think as far as I can remember, I was out practicing, and Ger Kelly came and joined me, and we were chatting away, and we were just tipping around. There was no kind of intensive kind of practice at all. It was just casual kind of tip around, and didn't play great. Yeah. But I came out on the Sunday, and the hole in one just peppered, and it took it from there.
It started.
I think I turned 10 under that for the first 18. That one, yeah.
There was another famous shot in the playoff. It was down the 11th, which was down the side of the wall, where you went out long and out the back of the green. And I thought you were dead. I think everybody who was there thought that you were in an impossible position. Yeah,
that is correct. You're bang on, because there was a lot of people. When I caught the back of the green, and you couldn't see it from the tee box, you caught it the back of the green. The pin was at the back. Maybe 6 feet in from the back, but it took one hop and it was clear down off the back of the green, and it was pretty thick down there as well. So to try and when I went down, I had a good look. John was on the green. He had a very reasonable. Well, I don't know how far now. I'd be guessing, but he was good. He was inside 10 feet anyway for the birdie, and it was close at that stage, but I went down, had a look, and instantly I made up my mind what I was going to do. Because I played that shot many times kind of in Douglas, coming up banks. And my one look was, if I flop this, I'd be at the back of the green going to end up with a 4. So I looked at it and I said, I'll play the shot that I thought I was good at anyway. I felt I could play that shot. And the way I played it, I pick a spot in the bank and hit it as hard as I could into that spot, and let it jump up, and that's what I did.
Bump and roll.
But that wasn't kind of that shot. I knew what I was going to do. I knew that's the shot I wanted to play. Like
that was.
I could have lost it. I could have lost it there and then.
You could have, yeah. You could have.
I could have lost it there and then.
And it was probably the shot that made it.
That's the shot that people will always talk about, yeah.
Yeah, they do. I remember it vividly. I can't remember a whole lot else about the rest of the round, but I remember that, and I remember you won it, and I was delighted that you did. I always had a great time, William. You could have had another couple, could you?
I could have, yeah. Yeah, the one in St. Stephen's, I thought I left there.
I reminded you of that now when we were arranging this call. So
but I did, and that wasn't that always sticks in the craw. Like
I'll tell you my memory of that. You were out very early, and I'm trying to remember. Were you 12 under for the first round?
That is right. Yeah.
Yeah,
I was
and
12 under. Yeah.
You were 14 under par playing the 4th hole second time round. And I was in the start of I can't remember now, but I pitched a ball long on the 9th hole, right almost into the trees. And I remember somebody saying to me, right now you are 15 shots behind Liam O'Brien. Was said to me, you'd played 22 holes, I'd played 9, and I was 15 shots behind you at that exact precise moment. And someone said to me, come here, you're not at the races at all. Now, as it happened, I ended up in a tie to win the event altogether. But I always felt that was an event that you that you should have. I did,
and I always felt, Frank, what the killer with that was, the killer of that particular kind of system at that time was that I came off the 12 off of that, and I made one bad mistake that day when I came off after the first 18, and I was 12 under. I stayed around the place, and I was waiting for about 2 hours to go out again.
Yeah, and you just
where
got
I should have
cold.
went away and come back.
Yeah.
And that's what I done in Rock Lodge when
Yes.
that was it. That was the killer. I found that was the killer, that you were waiting around and you couldn't get the momentum back again. Okay, you pick up, but they dried up. They dried up. But
Yeah.
I even kind of, I was still in with a great shout,
Oh, you were,
going
yeah.
out for the playoff.
Yeah, you
I
were.
was still for the great, but the head, that was sticking in the head,
Yeah.
and that shouldn't happen. Like that to me is, cardinal sin, in that your concentration kind of goes,
And
and that shouldn't have happened. Like,
Liam, you were always a man to be concentrating, to
oh, huge, yeah.
meticulous. I remember you over putts. You were classed as a slow player, right? And
I was, yeah. I
yeah.
got christened that a long time ago, yeah.
Yeah, you
But
didn't.
I don't
you
think
didn't,
I am.
You didn't
I don't
do
think I
anything
am.
to
But
dissuade that. That is what I say. But
I don't think people say that, but like, okay,
you are.
right. I hold my hand up and say if I'm so and so, but I mean, I don't think so.
That's fair enough. No, but you were always the levels of concentration that you put in.
Concentration, yeah.
Yeah, it was always immense, and it was.
I
obvious.
felt that was a huge part of the game.
Yes.
And that like we mentioned, the one that you done with Willie Parker, he instilled that, and like that there's a different side to the game when you're playing with your head.
He dedicated his book to Liam. You were good pals with him.
He did.
Yeah?
We were great friends.
Yeah.
And he was great friends, and he was a great help to Norma when she was kind of young, when she made her inter-county. She was only 16 or something like that.
Yes.
And he got her to adjust her swing. He showed her. He was a great man for the camera and kind of taking still pictures of kind of your swing and how you kind of your backswing and where it was and where it should be.
Yes.
And he got her to shorten her backswing because she had a big kind of golfer's kind of swing, and she was losing it coming down. But she went on to be great player, great putter, brilliant putter. Yeah. She had one kind of regret, I would say, and that was 93. She was going for the double.
Yeah.
And that would have been, if she had won the match play in Hillview that year, she was in the final. Should have been the father and son have the ladies and gents match play.
Yeah. Would not have
been. Could have been unheard of, yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. So,
and obviously she married William Hill.
And William started it all off, in fairness to him.
Yeah, excellent.
He did.
Yeah. So, William. I remember William winning his stroke play down in Ferrybank as well.
Were you there?
I was. I played intermediate that day. So there you go. That was a long time ago.
We no, they weren't going over one of them all at that stage. But we were like William used to live around the corner from where we are in Grange. He used to live around the corner, and I used to take him a lot of scratch cups, and he'd come over and he'd come with us for the scratch cups and all that kind of thing. Yeah. And we went down to support him for the Ferrybank, and they've been together ever since.
Excellent. Well, there's more than one love story has been made on the Pitch and Putt course, Liam, and delighted that such a lovely couple and your grandchildren and everything else, and it's great that they were there. Maybe someday we can persuade the two of them to come back and play, but we'll leave that one for another day. We'll leave that one for you.
Oh, well done, Frank.
That's your job now for the COVID. For the COVID.
Well done, yeah.
Liam, it's been an absolute pleasure talking to you. You're a stalwart in the game of pitch and putt, one of the true gentlemen and one of the true heroes of the game for many of us. I definitely think your concentration levels and your meticulousness and the way that you were always so well turned out was always a credit to you and your family and everybody else. And your family were one of the great, and Connor as well, and your whole family are integral parts of pitch and putt in our country, and it's an absolute pleasure to have you on one of these shows. I'm going to end all of these shows with the same question to all of the players that I come. It's going to be harder for some of them to answer. I'm going to go back in time, and I'm going to ask you, in the early part of the game, and I'm talking up to about 95 direction or 96, who would you consider have been the best player you ever saw, the most meticulous player? Who would have been your icon in the early part? And then from 95 on, who would you rate as the greatest player in that era? So there you go. Now, they're your final two questions to get you keep you alive.
The first one is very easy, and that would be Michael Forrest. He was way above anybody else, kind of as regards. He was the pinnacle. I can go back kind of. I mentioned Highfield earlier on, when they were kind of in thing. When I was kind of getting to know the game and do the game, I often went to Highfield to watch John Crowley and Michael Forrest play in their club match play. Something else. But Michael Forrest would be way above anybody else. Way above anybody else. And even today, kind of would he hold his own? And I like to think it's very hard with different generations coming, whatever.
Yeah.
He was immaculate. He was a beautiful pitcher of a ball. He'd put a ball on a kind of sixpence field to just come down off the air and just sit there. And I had the pleasure of playing with him and against him, and it was a real pleasure. Like, of today's crew, I suppose Ray, with what he has won. Ray made his inter-county debut in '97 in Lakewood, I think, and yes. I think he's been on it ever since.
He has been on it ever since, yeah. He has, yeah.
Yeah, that was '97, and we were washed out that year. It was unbelievable bad weather. Yeah. We got odds-on favourites to win it, and yeah. But I would have to say Ray, he'd be, as a gentleman and a lover of the game, and he does love the game, like. But I would have to say that.
Okay, you've one last thing. What's your greatest moment in the game? If you had one moment, one event, one minute, what would it be?
Well, very hard to say, Frank. I suppose winning the match play is the pinnacle. It's the blue ribbon of our game, and winning that has to be that type. But I've had the stroke player, and I must say as well, captaining Ireland in Catalonia in '97 was a fantastic honour. And
of course,
they will be my three.
Excellent.
I think, but winning the match play first of all, and that's the blue ribbon of our sport, and that would have to be it.
Okay, I know you're a supporter of the over 55s events, and long may that continue. Liam, we look forward to seeing you on the course very soon, and you're always a feared man, by me anyway, and we're looking forward to seeing you again. Stay safe, stay well, and we'll talk to you again. Thanks, Liam.
Thanks for your honour, Frank. Thanks for the honour.
Thank you.
Thank you very much.
All the honour's all mine. Thank you, Liam.